Last week, I was lucky enough to be filming for the Lamborghini Edinburgh tour, but instead of being solely focused on the cars, I was focused on the watches. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And it's funny, you bring a watch guy to a car show and they end up just pointing out the cool watches that people wear. So there was 12 watches in particular that I managed to get snaps of, managed to get photos of, and let's start with number 1. This is the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600 meters. I was actually at dinner when I saw this. Somebody kind of leaned across to talk to us and I quickly snapped a photo with the Leica, but this watch in the right light, because it was kind of dusky at this point, looked unbelievable. So this watch comes in at 43.5 millimeters in diameter. It comes in at 16.09 millimeters in thickness. So yes, it is a damn thick boy, but I do think it kind of suits the bigger aesthetic. If you're a bigger guy, if you're beefy, if you've got the muscles, it can suit you. It's the tool watch's tool watch. It comes in at 49 millimeters lug to lug, and it's water resistant to 600 meters, hence why it's that thick. It actually comes with a very similar movement to the Omega Seamaster 300 meters. It has the caliber 8900. This is COSC and METAS certified, which is absolutely unbelievable. It's fully automatic and it has a power reserve of 60 hours. I have to say, and I'd love your opinion on this, a lot of people tend to think that the Planet Ocean is too big, simply too bulky. But when it's actually on the wrist, it does look a lot better than you might think. I feel like the Planet Ocean is the tool watch's tool watch, whereas the Omega Seamaster 300 meters is the good looking tool watch that is never actually used in the field. This Seamaster Planet Ocean comes in at £6,700. Next up, I actually spotted a buddy of mine's watch, Jacob, who shoots a lot of photography with me. He's an absolute genius behind the camera. His handle on Instagram is the Jacob Murray. Definitely go give him a follow. Unbelievable photographer. But he was wearing his Hamilton khaki automatic, and it was one that I actually really struggled to find because it's been discontinued. But the watch community, being the watch community, they did help me out and they found it. This is the model H705950. It comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, has a black dial, comes in full stainless steel. It also comes with a stainless steel bracelet, but Jacob has actually put the NATO strap on it, which I think is absolutely banging for this model. It has a 24-hour track in the center, a 12-hour track round the outside, being, you know, your hours of the day. And then it also has the 60-second track around that. So this is quite a busy looking dial. It's quite a busy looking watch, and maybe that's why they discontinued it. But I feel like because they've discontinued it, it makes me like it even more because you can't really pick one up now. I really love that splash of red on the second hand, and also at the 12 o'clock mark around the second track, you've got between the 50-second and 60-second, you've got that splash of red as well. It is an absolutely stunning watch, and it still fit the bill around watches that were much more expensive than it is, which I really, really like. It kind of held its own. I feel like Hamilton are just absolutely banging. This Hamilton automatic on the pre-owned market, because obviously it's discontinued, comes in at roughly 420 to 500 pounds. The next watch I spotted was an absolute classic. It was a Rolex Daytona with the ceramic bezel and a beautiful white dial. This watch in the light around these cars, it just really held its own. And then also with the racing history of the Rolex Daytona, it definitely fit the bill. So this watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.9 millimeters in thickness, and around about the 47.6 millimeters lug to lug. It's water resistant to 100 meters, comes in a beautiful polished stainless steel, and has the caliber 4131 in-house movement, which is fully automatic and has around about 72 hours of power. Now, the photo that I actually managed to snap of this watch, you can see that the gentleman is quite tanned, and I feel like being tanned with watches that have more bright dials, whites or maybe baby blues, it fits so much better than if you are like me in pasty white. I really love the way that this watch kind of gleams in the light. It's super photogenic, and that's not something you see often. Sometimes you shoot watches and they just don't look as good in the photo photo as they do in real life. Whereas I think the Daytona is kind of the flip. It looks so good in photos. This Rolex Daytona, if you're to buy it on the secondary market, because most people will be doing that because Rolex waiting lists, comes in at round about £24,000, depending on if you have box and papers, year, etc, etc. Next on the list, we have a bonus watch because it's actually my watch. I was on a Lamborghini tour. I wasn't driving the cars because I do not have a Lamborghini. I was just filming, but I needed to fit in. I needed to blend in, and it was a very special occasion for me. So I wore this. This is the Omega Speedmaster Anniversary Apollo 11. This watch comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, 13.09 millimeters in thickness, and it has a lug-to-lug of 47.5 millimeters. It's got the Omega caliber 3861 movement, which is manual winding, and it has 50 hours of power reserve. And it's quite funny, car guys tend to fall into watches. The car guys, camera guys, and watch guys all tend to like the same stuff. And the amount of comments that I got about this watch, just because it's a little bit more rare, a little bit more limited, was unreal. So many nerdy people wanted to talk to me about my Speedmaster, and it meant the world. It was a really special occasion for me. I've never filmed with Lamborghini before, and the fact that they wanted me to film with Jacob was pretty awesome. So yeah, special occasions watch. It joined me. It was awesome, and lots of good feedback. To be fair, I probably wouldn't tell you if there was bad feedback because I'm so biased and I love this watch. All right, next up is a watch that I didn't expect to like, but when I had it on, it was too big, but when I had it on, it was pretty awesome. This is the Hublot Big Bang Unico King Gold with the model number 411.0M.1180.RX. This model is a chunky monkey. It's a big boy and it weighs a ton. It comes in at 45 millimeters in diameter and is in full gold with a ceramic bezel, and those screws going into it actually adds a lot to the character of this watch. My favorite bit about this watch was the fact that it was an open heart watch. You can see into the movement, and although it's definitely harder to read the time, I do like the fact that you can see into the heart. I love the flares of red on this watch. I love how they contrasted with the black on the outside of this watch. With that said, something that I'm not as keen on, if I'm being perfectly honest, is the printed Hublot sign on the glass of this watch. I know that it's something that Hublot do a lot, but I don't know, I feel like it detracts from the actual, the dial of the watch. I feel like I would have wanted that to not be on the glass, but to be kind of underneath. I don't know, I just feel like it takes away a little bit. The rubber strap slots into that case really, really nicely, and I do like the fact that those kind of lugs are accentuated. Now, given on my wrist, I'm actually looking at a picture at the moment, on my wrist, it looked kind of ridiculous. I'm far too skinny a guy to be wearing something like this, but it was pretty cool to see. Now, on the pre-owned market, this watch comes in at roughly, I'm going to say £11,000 if you have box and papers. This one's an interesting one because I actually clocked it at dinner. We were all having wine and some beers over dinner. I was talking to the guys that drove the Lamborghinis, and a lot of them had more vintage watches on. So me being me, I was like, well, can I take a picture of your watch? And the first one I spotted was this. This is the Rolex Day-Date 36 millimeters with the reference number 118238. Now, interestingly enough, the gentleman that was actually wearing this was specifically after a watch from a year that was important to him. And this watch just so happened to be from that exact year. It had sentimental value to him. And I really like the stories that are put behind watches. On that note, if you guys have any stories that are behind your special watches, drop them in the comments. I'd be really interested to read some of them. And on the same note, if you do like these videos and like watches, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we have a huge giveaway coming very soon. This full thing came in yellow gold and had a kind of champagne looking dial. And honestly, the fact that this watch was so old and still looked as good as it was is insane. And the quality of the gold, you could see it was thick metal. Like there was a huge hunk of gold on that watch. Literally, when you picked it up, you were like, whoa, it was really quite insane. The fluted bezel really caught the light when we were at dinner especially. It was quite interesting to photograph actually because the exposure was all over the place. But then we get to the magnifying glass on the date window, which I understand the vintage flares. It looks quite cool to some, but I don't know. I'm just not for that magnifying date window. I've never been for them. I feel like it distorts the aesthetic of the watch, especially when you're filming it or shooting it from side on. This watch can come in at 15 to 20,000 pounds, depending on box and papers and all that kind of stuff. And on that note, the last watch we're going to cover it's a winner. The next watch was one that I clocked immediately because of the dial. This is the Omega Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon. This watch comes in at 44.25 millimeters in diameter, 16.14 millimeters in thickness, and 49.8 millimeters lug to lug. It comes with the Omega Caliber 9300, which is fully automatic and has 60 hours of power. It has gold around that bezel, which actually works really, really nicely with the dial. It gives it those vintage hues, which I really like, but the meteorite on the dial, this is where it stood out for me. The meteorite dial looked so different depending on the light you held it in. It was honestly stunning. Now, I wasn't quite for the leather strap. There was kind of a gray leather strap on it. To be honest, I wasn't as keen on that, but the head of this watch, everything about this watch was absolutely stunning. Now, if you're to get this new, and I don't know why, but my computer has transferred everything to euros, so it's 18,700 euros, and I'm gonna put up the pounds here in terms of what that is. At the same dinner, I then spotted this. This is the classic Rolex Hulk, the Rolex Submariner 116610 LV. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter. Comes in full stainless steel, which is absolutely brilliant. It's actually 904L stainless steel. And this is officially coined oyster steel by Rolex, and that's been the case since 2018. It's water resistant to 300 meters. It is a proper diving watch. And it has a beautiful green dial, a beautiful green bezel, and to be honest, the lume on this thing as well is just insane. Interestingly enough, this actually has a Cerachrome bezel, and that's rather than the aluminium inlay on the previous models. It's essentially an exceptionally hard-wearing ceramic alloy that Rolex again have kind of coined. Do I see the difference between this and normal ceramic? Not really, but I think it probably does make an impact when you hit this ceramic in terms of it not shattering. The movement in this model is the Caliber 3135, and this is fully COSC certified with 48 hours of power. Now, this watch can be anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000 pounds, just depending again on condition, box and papers, etc., etc. All right, next up, and this is where we saw a definite switch. I was out the second day and I definitely saw loads of Tudors, essentially, which was pretty awesome. And the first one that stuck out to me, purely because of how it looked in the light, I got a couple of nice snaps of it, was this. This is the Tudor Pelagos 39 millimeters. This comes in at full grade 2 titanium with a satin brush finish, and it comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter. It has lugs that are 21 millimeters in width and a case thickness of 11.8 millimeters. The movement on this model is the COSC certified MT5400 with 70 hours of power. This is waterproof to 200 meters and has an aluminium disc insert for the bezel. And aluminium, I've said this in other videos, so apologies if you heard this before, but aluminium disc inserts seem to give it such a more kind of matte approach. It absorbs the light so much more than ceramic. Ceramic can be very difficult to photograph, like really, really difficult because of how it gleams. And that can be good or bad, but aluminium disc inserts, they kind of absorb the light more, and that makes them more photogenic. This watch comes in at 4,140 pounds. All right, next up, continuing on that kind of Tudor train, we had this. This was the Tudor Black Bay Chrono in white. This was actually the slightly older version, and the reason I know that is because it didn't have the 5-link bracelet. It had the older style bracelet, but it still is the same head of watch, essentially, so it still looked amazing, but it was the older version. This model comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, comes in at 22 millimeters in lug width, and it has a case thickness of 14.4 millimeters. It comes in full stainless steel, which looks great in the light again, and it has the COSC certified Caliber MT5813. This is entirely self-winding or automatic, and it has 70 hours of power. It's also waterproof to 200 meters, being a proper tool watch, and I just love the way that this watch looks in the light. I love the way the lume works. I actually love everything about the Tudor Chrono, but because I have a Speedmaster, I don't know, I've kind of ticked that box already, so I don't feel like I need another chrono model. I don't know, maybe I'm lying here. Is that the same for you guys? I mean, when you get something that's like a GMT, would you not go for another GMT because you already have ticked that box? Or would you not let that get in the way of what you really want? Let me know in the comments. It's an interesting one. This watch comes in at £5,020, and that's with the new 5-link bracelet. All right, one that I snapped really, really quickly that was very interesting to me. The gentleman actually didn't even realize I took I had a massive weird lens on. It was like a 70-200, and I zoomed right in while everyone was at dinner, and I thought, that's cool, so I'm gonna snap that watch. He didn't even realize I was taking the picture of it, but it's super, super cool. This is the Tudor Black Bay Heritage in black ceramic. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, comes in at 22 millimeters in lug width, and has a case thickness of 14.4 millimeters. It has the COSC and METAS certified caliber MT5602 with 70 hours of power. And I remember them releasing this. I remember this was one of the first watches that they'd released with that open case back with the COSC and METAS certified movement. They began showing off their movement skills, if you want to call it that, with this model in particular. This watch is waterproof to 200 meters, has a unidirectional rotatable bezel in black PVD. It actually has domed sapphire crystal glass, which makes it quite difficult to shoot. I feel like domed sapphire crystal glass seems to catch the light in weird ways. And that's actually why when you look at the Tudor Pelagos, it seems to show a lot less reflections than the Tudor Black Bay, this Tudor Black Bay, or maybe any of the ones that had domed glass. And I think that's partially why the Tudor Pelagos is more photogenic. But that's my nerd speaking, so let's get back to the watch. The lume on this watch and the hour markers with that lume-filled stuff, you know, that's going on there, look so contrasty comparatively to this watch just because it's purely black. It's probably one of the most readable watches here in terms of functionality. And also it has all the bells and whistles attached to it because it's a Tudor Black Bay. Now this gentleman had it on the leather strap that it comes with, but personally speaking, I would opt for the NATO strap with the kind of line down the middle. It's kind of in black and then it has a white or kind of meshy cream colored line down the middle. I think that would look better in my opinion, but then I've never been one for leather straps. This watch comes in at £4,510. Okay, next on the list, we're steering away from Tudor now, but we do have one really exciting watch at the end. But this was so painful to find. I had to look for so long, and I actually fired it into the watch. Was it this watch? There was one of the watches that I fired into the watch family group chat because I just had no idea about the reference number. Maybe it was the Hublot. But anyway, if you guys want to join that watch family group chat, we talk about watches all the time, talk about what we're wearing on certain days of the week. Yeah, it's a pretty good place. But back to the watch. This is the Patek Philippe Aquanaut in white. Now this is a quartz model and it comes with rose gold and factory set diamonds. So these are not aftermarket diamonds because I'm kind of against icing out watches, if you want to call it that. I feel like it kind of kills the watch, to be honest, but this is factory set. This is done in their factory at Patek Philippe. This watch comes in at 38.8 millimeters in diameter. It comes with a white rubber strap, which contrasts and plays wonderfully, especially if you've got more tanned skin. I just feel like it works beautifully. It contrasts wonderfully. The diamonds, again, play into that white aesthetic because diamonds themselves are reflecting light. They are pretty much white. And the dial on this watch has that typical Aquanaut kind of texture, that pattern that we can see on a load of others that looks absolutely phenomenal. Now, my worry about this is that it wouldn't really suit me. I think it is a little bit more feminine. With that said, I'm sure that guys can wear it as well. Interestingly, this actually had a quartz movement. And when I shot it on the wrist again at dinner, I kind of realized how thin it was. And I was really interested. I was curious to know if they'd made it that thin with an automatic movement, but they hadn't. So this is quartz. Now, on the pre-owned market, you could be paying about £70,000 for this watch. The next watch we're going to talk about is this. This is the Tudor Black Bay Chrono Flamingo Blue. Again, sorry about the picture quality here, but I was a sharpshooter. I was bing, 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 bing. Like, it was almost like, you know when you like pinball, but I was trying to hit all the watches with the camera. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 22 millimeters in lug width, and again, it's 14.4 millimeters in case thickness. You can see that number getting thrown around quite a lot with Tudor. It has the manufacturer caliber MT5813, which is COSC certified, totally self-winding or automatic, and it has 70 hours of power. It's waterproof to 200 meters and it actually has a stainless steel bezel with a matte black anodized disc. Again, that anodized disc kind of diffuses the light and makes it more creamy when the light hits it, and it looks beautiful to photograph. Now, the flamingo blue Tudor, and also the pink, to be honest, but the flamingo blue is actually quite rare. We get very few of them in the UK. So to see this out in the wild was really quite cool. Now, if you're to buy this new, it cost about £5,020. But I do know that they're fetching a premium at the moment. And on that note, thank you guys so much. If you do enjoy this style of video, spotting watches out and about, then let me know in the comments and I'll do more of them for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelens. That's my personal, and we have a podcast, the Into the Mind podcast. And I'll see you guys real soon. Yeah, I feel like I should end the video there. Is there any more watches? No. See you soon.